All right. So uh, you wanted to go deep on kendo strategy.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you, these sources you sent are fascinating.
Yeah.
One is like a full-on academic paper,
Okay.
all about game theory
Interesting.
in kendo.
Yeah.
The other one's more practical,
Right.
using data to create like
Oh, wow.
fighter profiles.
Okay.
Almost like video game character sheets.
Oh, interesting.
So get ready, because we're going to see if math can like predict when to strike,
Okay.
and if we can actually map out like Akinshi's tendencies.
Yeah.
By the end of this, I think your whole understanding of kendo
Okay.
will be transformed.
What's really fascinating is how these two sources kind of approach the same goal, like improving your strategic thinking,
Yeah.
but from completely different angles.
So, okay, first up,
Okay.
this game theory paper,
Right?
I'll admit I was a little intimidated at first.
Yeah.
But the way it explains Uchima is incredible.
Yeah.
You know, that ideal distance for striking.
Uh-huh.
I mean, thinking back to my own matches, like sometimes I'd be too close or way too far out for my attack to land properly. This paper like breaks down why that distance is so crucial.
They actually use this analogy of a sponge duel to explain like when attacking becomes mathematically advantageous.
Right.
So picture this.
Okay.
Two people, 10 paces apart, armed with like ink-soaked sponges, and their only options are to throw a sponge or take a step forward.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
And the closer they get, the higher the chance of hitting their opponent.
Makes sense.
Right. So now think about this.
Yeah.
At a certain distance, the combined probability of either person hitting becomes greater than 1.
Wow.
Meaning it's almost guaranteed.
Someone's getting splattered.
So that's the point where it makes mathematical sense to attack.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You're more likely to hit
Okay.
and less likely to get hit yourself.
So it's not just like feeling it out.
Bro.
It's like there's actual math behind it.
It all comes back to that.
Okay.
You know?
That's a game changer.
Finding your Ukima.
Uh-huh.
And more importantly, your opponents becomes this constant dance.
Right.
You're both trying to manipulate the distance to gain that strategic advantage.
So it's not just about Ukima. It's about like their Ukima and
and this leads to something they call inflection points.
Inflection points.
Yeah, so picture a graph.
Okay.
Right? Each fighter's probability of hitting is a curve as the distance changes.
Yeah.
These curves intersect.
Right.
And that intersection is where one fighter's odds of landing a blow
overtake the others.
So if I'm understanding this right, stepping closer or further away isn't just about space.
Right.
It's about like shifting.
It's about shifting those probabilities.
Those probabilities in your favor.
Exactly.
That's incredibly insightful.
Now the paper goes even further.
Okay.
It tries to map these concepts onto like traditional kendo strategy. Things like Mitsuno Sen, which is all about timing. Sansapo, which refers to the 3 methods of attack. Thrusting, striking, and cutting.
Right.
And even Shikai.
Oh, wow.
The 4 psychological states.
Okay, hold on. Let's break that down a bit.
Okay.
For anyone who isn't fluent in kendo terminology.
Good idea.
Mitsuno Sen is essentially who controls the timing of the engagement.
Yeah.
Attacking, first counterattacking, or waiting for the perfect opportunity.
Exactly.
Sansapo covers the core ways. You can use your Shinai.
Right.
And Shikai delves into like the mental side.
Yeah.
Whether you're surprised, hesitant, fearful, or doubtful during the fight.
It's amazing how the paper tries to connect these traditional ideas to specific techniques and distances.
Exactly.
For example, they argue that Ippon Uchi no Waza, which are techniques aimed at scoring with a single decisive strike, are often associated with Sen no Sen, taking the initiative and attacking before your opponent is even ready. And this usually happens at closer range.
Got it.
On the other hand, Keishi Waza, or counter techniques, are more aligned with Go no Sen, where you wait for your opponent to attack and then strike back.
So basically, each technique has its own ideal zone on this map based on distance timing.
Exactly.
And even the psychological game.
It's fascinating.
This is getting complex.
It becomes a fascinating game board with multiple layers.
Right.
But before we get too lost in theory, let's shift gears to that second source you sent.
Okay.
This one takes a completely different approach,
Right.
using data analysis to build what they call Shiaisha hyperspace.
This is where the character sheet idea comes in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How do we go from complex math to something that feels like a video game?
Good question.
I'm really curious to see how this works.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Right? It's actually quite brilliant. They propose that we can classify fighters based on two key dimensions, stiffness and aggressiveness.
Okay.
So imagine plotting these on a graph to create sort of like a map of a Kenshi's tendencies.
Okay, so how does this stiffness thing work?
Yeah.
It makes me picture like someone with a totally rigid kame.
Yeah.
Moving like a robot.
Not quite. It's more about how adaptable they are in their stance and movements. So they break it down into 3 levels: stiff, relax, and what they call wobbly.
Wobbly.
Yeah.
Okay. So someone who's stiff would have like a very set kame, not much variation. Whereas a wobbly fighter might be all over the place.
Yeah.
Using lots of footwork and even defensive moves like Sanbuya Momori.
You got it. And the idea is that by understanding a fighter's stiffness, you can kind of anticipate their movements and find weaknesses.
Okay, so like if someone's really stiff, they might be vulnerable to techniques that exploit that lack of flexibility.
Exactly.
Makes sense. All right, now what about this aggressiveness dimension? Is that literally just how often they attack?
It's part of it, but it's also about their overall approach.
Okay.
Like, are they constantly looking to initiate, or are they more reactive?
Got it.
They define 3 levels: positive, neutral, and negative.
Okay, so a positive fighter is always pushing the attack, while a negative fighter is more cautious, maybe waiting for their opponent to make a mistake. Almost like a hunter versus holder kind of approach.
That's a great way to put it. They even use those terms in the source.
Oh, wow.
Now imagine you've been studying your next opponent's matches.
Okay.
Right? And you determine there's relaxed and positive. They move fluidly.
Yeah.
And they're constantly seeking the attack.
Right. I'm hooked. How do I use this knowledge to actually create a game plan?
Well, in that scenario, a direct attack probably isn't the best strategy.
Okay.
They're likely to adapt and counter. Remember that idea from the first source? Faking an action to trigger a reaction?
Oh, yeah.
That could be extremely effective here.
Ooh, I love it. It's like setting a trap.
Exactly.
Based on their personality type. How would you actually use that in a match?
So let's say you slightly raise your shine eye as if you're going for men. A relaxed and positive fighter might instinctively react by raising their own shine eye to block or even try to launch their own counterattack.
And that's when you exploit the opening they've created.
Exactly.
So instead of reacting to what my opponent does, I'm manipulating the situation to make them react in a predictable way.
You're in control.
This is brilliant. But where do I strike?
Yeah.
Once I've set the trap.
It all depends on their exact response.
Okay.
If they raise their shine eye to block men, their kote might be wide open.
Got it.
If they overcommit to a counterattack, you can have a chance for Dabana kote.
So it's not just about knowing what to do. It's about knowing when and why to do it. This Shiaisha hyperspace thing gives you a whole new layer of strategic thinking beyond just technique.
It's like you said earlier, you're playing chess on the kendo floor.
Yeah.
And just like in chess, understanding your own tendencies is crucial.
Right.
The source emphasizes that you need to analyze yourself too.
Yeah.
Are you stiff or relaxed? Positive, neutral, or negative?
Now that you mention it, I can see how knowing my own character would be huge. Like if I tend to be stiff and negative, maybe I need to work on my flexibility and being more proactive and seam. Instead of just trying to fix what feels wrong, I can actually target those weaknesses strategically.
Exactly. This framework gives you a roadmap for self-improvement. Now let's loop back to that first source.
Okay.
The one with all the game theory.
All right.
It really tries to connect those mathematical ideas to actual kendo techniques.
I'm still trying to fully grasp these probability distributions and inflection points. How can I actually visualize those during a match? It all feels a bit abstract.
It is a complex concept, but I think the core takeaway is that you and your opponent are constantly trying to control that optimal distance, where your chances of scoring are highest. You know, those inflection points on the graph represent those crucial moments where the advantage shifts.
So instead of just thinking about distance in terms of feet or meters, I need to be thinking about it in terms of probability and strategic advantage.
Yeah.
That's a whole new way to look at footwork. This is making me rethink everything.
And that's where analyzing specific techniques comes in.
Okay.
The paper argues that each technique has its own probability curve based on distance and timing.
So Manucci might be statistically more likely to land at close range, while Koteuchi might be more effective from slightly further out. But then you have to factor in your opponent's style. Are they trying to close the gap or waiting to counter?
Wow, it's like a constantly shifting puzzle.
Exactly. There are so many variables, but the more you understand them, the better decisions you'll make during the match. That's ultimately the goal of both of these sources, helping you move beyond intuition to a more analytical approach.
This has been eye-opening. You know, the first source briefly mentioned how these concepts could apply to other areas of life, too. I'm really intrigued by that idea. Yeah, it's like Kendo is a training ground for strategy in general. Right.
Imagine applying like the concept of ukima to like a business negotiation.
All right.
You're not just trying to get your way.
Right.
You're looking for that sweet spot where you have the most leverage without pushing too far and ruining the deal.
That's a great example.
Right.
Or think about Shueisha Hyperspace in terms of like personal relationships. If you understand like someone's character, their tendencies and how they communicate, you can adjust your own approach to like avoid conflict and connect better.
It really makes you see how the skills we hone in Kendo, awareness, timing, adaptability, can be valuable in all sorts of situations.
I agree.
It's not just about winning matches. It's like we're training our minds.
It reminds me of Miyamoto Musashi.
Oh, yeah.
The legendary swordsman who wrote the Book of Five Rings.
Right.
He was like a master strategist who saw the links between swordsmanship and the principles of leadership, strategy, and personal growth.
That's a powerful point.
Yeah.
The lessons we learn on the dojo floor can have a much wider impact.
Exactly.
It's not just about victory or defeat. It's about cultivating a mindset that helps us navigate life's complexities.
I think that's one of the most important takeaways from this whole deep dive.
Okay.
Kendo provides a framework for understanding strategy, not just in a match, but in life itself.
I'm definitely going to look back at my own Shiai footage.
Oh, cool.
With all these new concepts in mind.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been given a whole new set of tools to like analyze my own game, my opponents.
That's fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
And remember, this is just the start of your exploration.
Okay.
The more you delve into these concepts, the more you'll discover both about Kendo and yourself.
This deep dive has been incredible.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Thanks for like guiding me through this fascinating world.
Yeah, of course.
Of Kendo strategy.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
Keep training, keep asking questions, and keep pushing the boundaries of your understanding. Who knows, maybe someday you'll be writing the next groundbreaking work on Kendo strategy.
I wouldn't rule it out. Until next time.
All right.
Keep your shinai sharp and your minds even sharper.
Sounds good.